How was your golf round there, Stephen?
We didn't do too badly. We came at 2 over.
I don't know where we ended up because the girls were everywhere, so
Oh,
I think we might have been 3 or 4, but
yeah. No, it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of laughs. Yeah.
yeah, we did too. I told them, okay, I'll drive, and then I'll take a couple other shots, but the rest is up for you chipping and the putting. So I just kind of sat there and let them do it.
They're always fun. Yeah. You heard the economic development didn't go for Tom?
I couldn't hear you. Sorry.
Did you hear that the economic development meeting didn't happen this morning?
Yeah, I talked to Laura. I was struggling getting on. I changed the location of my router yesterday, and everything was working yesterday and last night, and then this morning I had to reboot the whole system again. But I think I got the bugs ironed out now.
Right. Yeah, you just couldn't get a quorum. Yeah.
Probably the problem. You got bugs in it.
Well, actually, they were here, and they found that where it was located, the main router in the box was in the utility room is not good, so we had to move it out more central in the rest of the house to pick up for wireless throughout.
Is ATEL working in your neighborhood?
Haven't seen them down here. I've got Eastlink fiber in here, so I haven't seen any ATEL trucks, but I've been down here all day in the office.
You already got fiber down there.
Yeah, I've got both Eastlink's in and Whiteman's right at the road as well. Down in this part of town.
All right.
I show 12:59 on my end. That matches with everyone.
No, your time's a little off. It's 1:01.
Well, isn't that some? Computer and the cell phone both the same. So I just wonder if Clerk Sharbeck is with us as well, and any staff members that need to be here. And I was wondering who's going to be hosting this. Is it the Supervisor Hewlett or which staff member?
Through you, Chair, staff are here and ready to go. Legislative Coordinator Tanya Patterson is our host, and she will be explaining the features of the Zoom software and how to participate. Okay.
Thank you, Clerk Sharbeck. Okay, well, it's 1 o'clock, well, 1:01 now from what I've been corrected to understand. And good afternoon and welcome. I'm Deputy Mayor Tom Hutchinson and Chair of the Adjustment Meeting. Item number 1 is the purpose, or I'll be calling, I'm sorry, purpose number 1, I'm calling the meeting to order. This is the September the 13th, 2021 Committee of Adjustment meeting. We do have quorum as indicated by the committee members' login. For this meeting, we're using both audio and video. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the West Grey website at www.westgrey.com. The technology for this meeting is being managed by the West Grey staff. Please refrain from clicking buttons throughout the meeting unless prompted. And before we continue, I'm asking, again, I'm going to go to the Legislative Coordinator, Tanya Patterson, to just give an overview and provide the public on how they can participate during the meeting. Legislative Coordinator, please.
Thank you, Chair Hutchinson. Before I begin, if you get disconnected, you can dial in at 1-647-558-0588 and enter the meeting ID for this meeting, which is 891-9652-3908. It should be noted for members of the public that this meeting is being hosted on Zoom meeting software, but is also being live streamed on YouTube. Public participation and comments are not monitored on YouTube and must be done through the Zoom meeting software. Both members of staff and council have been briefed on the various features of the Zoom meeting software. Members of council and staff will be raising their hands physically on camera to speak. For members of the public, if you require any technical assistance throughout the duration of the meeting, please send a chat message to myself, Tanya Patterson, Legislative Coordinator, and I will attempt to assist you.
Thank you. Takes us to item number 2, the purpose of the meeting. Clerk Scharbeck, please provide your comments.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Hutchinson. The purpose of this meeting is to allow the presentation of applications for minor variance and applications for consents to sever, and to allow interested members of the public the opportunity to ask questions or offer comments with regard to the applications. A public registry for each application is available by email to Tanya Patterson at tpatterson@westgrey.com. And if any member of the public would like to be notified in writing of the decision on an application, they're to provide their name and mailing address for the corresponding registry. This will also entitle one to be advised of a possible local planning appeal tribunal hearing in the event the decision on the application is appealed.
Thank you, Clerk Scharbeck. Item number 3, disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Members of the committee, are there any interest to declare at this time? If not, if one should arise, you can declare at any time during the meeting. I do not see any hands raised, so we will move on to item number 4, and that's the approval of the minutes. And that's the minutes from the August the 9th, 2021 meeting. Clerk Scharbeck, could you please read the recommendation?
Through you, Chair. The recommendation is that the Committee of Adjustment approves the minutes of August 9th, 2021 as circulated.
Could I get a mover for this recommendation, please? Member Hergert, are you moving this recommendation?
Yes, I will move the motion.
And Member Robinson, are you seconding this?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on the minutes from the committee members? Seeing none, we'll call the motion. All those in favor, if you could raise your hand, please. I see all members of the committee are in favor, none opposed. That motion is carried. That takes us to item number 5. This is our first minor variance application. This is number A21, 2021, Marlene Evans, Part Lot 101, Part Lot 102, Concession 3, SWTSR, Township of Glen Elk. 5.1, application number A21, 2021, Marlene Evans. 5.2 is Planner Spencer's report. If I could get Planner Spencer to please read your recommendations, and if you could include the written comments received, including 5.3.1 and 5.3.2 during your presentation. Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, the recommendation is that the committee receive my planning report and the recommendation that application A21-2021 be approved as the application maintains the general intent and purpose of the county official plan, the municipality's comprehensive zoning bylaw, and is considered appropriate for the use of land and structure and is considered to be minor in nature. The subject lands are municipally identified as 500098 Gray Road 12 and legally identified as part of Lot 101 and part of Lot 102, Concession 3, SWTSR, southwest of the Toronto-Sydenham Road, within the geographic township of Glenelg. The property is designated as rural and hazard under the county official plan and zoned as A2 rural and any natural environment within the municipality's zoning bylaw. The purpose of this application is to vary the provisions of sections 612A and 612B and 10.33 to permit the construction of an accessory building within the defined front yard with a reduced front yard setback, the effect of which will permit the placement of an accessory structure on the subject lands. Comments have been received from the County of Grey and the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, and it is the recommendation that the application be approved. If there's clarification required by the committee, I'm happy to do so at your discretion. The report is there, and any clarification required on that component is happy to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. That'll take us to 5.4, and this is verbal comments. Committee members, we're going to have the committee go first before we hand this over to the public. So committee members, this is your opportunity to ask any questions, to provide any comments you may have before we turn it over to the public, as I just said. And I see 2 hands up, and I will go with Member Hutchinson first, followed by Member Townsend. Member Hutchinson, go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm just curious with in the Conservation Authority report, they talk about the possible need for an impact study or a hydrological or karst study, and they talked about doing test holes. So I'm not sure if that's something they need at this time, or that's something that may be needed down the road if they decided to change the building location. Maybe our planner can explain that.
Planner Spencer.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, yes, they do have those specific comments with respect to any alterations, and the best word I can use is permanency. If this became a second dwelling unit on the property, it would be a little bit more significant than an accessory structure on the property at this point in time. They do not have concerns, but they're expressing their point that if something becomes more significant in future, that we should be taking some more significant components to deal with this particular structure. At this point in time, though, however, I don't feel that it's warranted as my recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further, Member Hutchinson? Oh, your hand's still up, just so you know. Thank you for clearing that. And Member Townsend, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, a question for the planner. On the same topic, they actually write that they found the application generally acceptable subject to a karst topography is what it's actually referenced as. But you're saying that it's not actually required?
Planner Spencer.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, if this was a single detached dwelling unit, there would absolutely be a study required. This is a slab on grade structure. It is not significant to the point that karst topography is an issue because it is slab on grade. So that's why we did not impose further restrictions on the proposal at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. Second question had to do with the location of the accessory building. They talk about not disturbing near the land adjacent to or the land where the woodland is, and it appeared that there was room close to the other current existing workshop, but it was really hard to tell where in relation to that, because the maps don't overlap, as to whether or not that would be in or too close to the natural environment or hazard zone. Can you clarify that, please?
Planner Spencer.
I can, and thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. The clarification is that if the proposed location of the building were to change, then their comments would differentiate from those that have been provided at this point in time. That's not to say when the building department gets a permit, they might have to take a closer look. Regardless, because of the proximity to natural environment, they will likely require that permit from the Conservation Authority, and that's a conversation that can happen at the development stage with the building department.
Thank you. You anticipated my next question, so I appreciate that. Thank you. That was all my questions.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the committee members before we turn it to the public? Okay, seeing none, then we will move on to 5.4.2, public comments. There's two parts to this portion of the public meeting. First one is to speak in favor of the application, and then that will be followed by anyone that would like to speak opposed or against the application. I'm going to ask Legislative Coordinator Patterson to please provide members of the public how they can participate. And if you could advise if you have anybody in the public that would like to speak in favor of it, or if you've received any correspondence. Legislative Coordinator Patterson, please.
Through your Chair Hutchinson, members of the public can raise their hand through Zoom or send a chat message to myself, Tanya Patterson, Legislative Coordinator, and I will read their message.
Have you received anything, or do you have anybody in the queue? I do not see anything on my screen here, Legislative Coordinator.
No, I don't see anything either.
Okay, well, thank you. And that'll move us on to the second part of the public portion, and this will be an opportunity for anybody to speak against or is in opposition of the application. And again, we've explained how you can participate. I do not see any raised hands or signals or chats on mine, and we'll ask Legislative Coordinator Patterson to confirm from her end too, please.
Sorry, are you waiting for me?
Just, yes, I was looking for verification if you had received any.
Sorry, we're just having a bit of technical difficulty.
That's fine.
There is no chat messages here and no one in the waiting room.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, as we go through each item, I will refer back to you on, again, to speak in favor and in opposition, just so that it can be clear when we're moving forward for the balance of the meeting. Thank you very much. That takes us to 5.5, and that's the decision by the committee. So what direction would the committee like to take with this application? And I see Member Robinson's hand up. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move the motion that the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves minor variance application number A 21.2021 Evans for the reasons as set out in the planner's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Robinson. Is there a seconder for this? I see Member Townsend's hand up. Go ahead, please.
As Member Townsend, and I will second that motion.
Thank you very much. Clerk Scharbeck, could you read the recommendation before us, please?
The recommendation moved by Member Robinson and seconded by Member Townsend is that Committee of Adjustment does hereby approve minor variance application number A21-2021 Evans for reasons as set out in the planner's report.
Thank you, Clerk Scharbeck. Comments or questions on the recommendation before us from the committee? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, if you could raise your hand, please. I see all members of the committee are in favor. That would be none opposed. That motion would be carried. That takes us to 5.6, which is next steps. Clerk Scharbeck, please.
Through you, Chair. The next steps is to wait for the 20-day appeal period to pass. If there are no appeals, then the applicant can proceed with the building permit process.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on to item number 6, and that's the consent to sever numbers B15-2020, B16 2020, B17 2020, B18 2020, B19 2020, B20 2020, and B21 2020. Chad and Rebecca Welch and Agent Christine Loft, Loft Planning Inc. 6.1 is application number, again, B15 consistent through to B21, and that would include 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. That's Chad and Rebecca Welch and Agent Christine Loft, Loft Planning. 6.2 is Planner Spencer's report. Planner Spencer, if you could read your recommendations, including 6.3, the written comments received under 6.3.1 during your presentation. Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, the recommendation is that the committee adjustment receive my report regarding applications B15 2020 to B21 2020 inclusive for approval, subject to the following conditions. Payment of the $500 parkland dedication fee for each newly created parcel, payment of the zoning bylaw amendment application fee, approval of a zoning bylaw amendment application to rezone the lands to R2 residential, that an entrance permit is obtained for each newly created parcel from the appropriate approval authority. To qualify that response, there is a municipal road and county road. So that's just as a sidebar for that statement in and of itself. And verification is confirmed by the applicant to the infrastructure requirements along Gray Road 9, which is a county requirement. And finally, that the applicants obtain site plan approval. The applications propose to sever the subject lands for the purposes of creating 7 new parcels for residential purposes. The effect of the applications, if approved, will be to create 8 parcels for residential purposes. The lands are municipally identified as 22126 Gray Road 9 in the municipality of West Gray, approximately 600 meters outside of the village of Neustadt on the southeast corner of Fuller and Gray Road 9. The village of Neustadt is identified as a primary settlement area, and the land surrounded by residential land uses, rural land uses, and some industrial uses north of the subject property. There has been applications before the committee in the past, which was deferred. The applicant has done their due diligence, and there is some change, and I will refer you to the site plan that identifies so. So there's going to be 2 portions of property that are going to be identified as Fuller Street, the balance of being which on Gray Road 9. The applicant has done their due diligence in the sense of conforming to identify that services can be provided in that particular area. And planning staff are quite satisfied that they are going to be able to accommodate the development proposed. And in going forward, there will be, through site plan control, more identified measures that will be in place. So the recommendation by planning staff is that the applications be approved. I'm happy to answer any questions to clarify that further. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. Once again, a detailed report. Is there any comments or questions from committee members? This is your opportunity to speak to the application and to ask any questions. And I do see Member Hutchinson. Go ahead, please. And actually, after Member Hutchinson, we'll follow up with Member Hergard and then Member Townsend. So, Member Hutchinson, please.
Yeah. So it looks like some of the things that the county had asked for have been met by this applicant. I'm just curious, in the Cobite Engineering's report that they talked about, they had asked for about water servicing and sanitary sewer servicing, that they've asked for information about the flows, and they didn't receive information back. And I'm just curious, have they received it now, or why they didn't receive information when they requested that?
Planner Spencer.
Yeah, thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, that's a very valid comment. We are ongoing with respect to identifying capacity components. However, we do know verbally at this point in time that this development can be supported by the services in place at this point in time. The final report has not come from the consultant, but we do know that this particular development can be supported. It just didn't coincide with the response from the applicant to the response of the municipality at this point in time.
Okay, but we don't foresee any problems with capacity at this point?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything further, Member Hutchinson?
No, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Member Herger, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Chair, I did have the same concern as Member Hutchison had just brought up there about capacity. I'm comforted that we have some verbal acknowledgement to that. I do look forward to the wholesome report of that. On page 102, it talks about the services that are provided to this development. And I noticed that fiber optic is not on that list. And I'm curious why that is not part of our required infrastructure.
Planner Spencer?
If I may, Mr. Chair, it's a very valid point, Councillor Hergert. At this point in time, this is not a plan of subdivision, so there's very different capacities with which we can require certain conditions. If it was a draft plan of subdivision, we certainly could make that a requirement for extension of services, but because they're going through a consent process, we're not at liberty to require the extension of fiber optic. We can request it, but we're not in a legal component to require it. So I understand your concern. I appreciate it. We're just not at that position where we can definitively require them to do so.
And through you, Chair, to Planner Spencer, have we requested that of the developer?
Through you, Mr. Chair, not at this point in time, but that is something that if it is a request of council, we can make that a condition of consent if that is something that council would, or sorry, committee would choose.
I would like to make that be an amendment, just that we ask the developer to ensure that we have internet provided there. I know Newstat has internet fiber, so I think it's probably just a connection, really, between all the parties involved. But further, page 88 talks about a comprehensive stormwater management plan, and that the county would be reviewing that. I didn't actually see that the county had reviewed it and given a thumbs up. To Planner Spencer, through you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. It has been peer reviewed. There is a lot of documentation accompanying this file. It's been long and extensive. Obviously, you can tell by the application date. We have taken great effort and had the county transportation department and our own independent consultant review this at the applicant's obvious expense. So we have taken great time and effort to understand what that looks like in terms of, stormwater management overflow components on the property. We're confident as staff that at the county and local level that we have satisfied those requirements, but I will state that site plan approval will get a little bit more detailed with respect to how that's going to look and how that's going to work. As much as you would see like a draft plan approval for a plan of subdivision, the site plan component will also initiate details that they're required to adhere to. And I believe at this point in time, I don't want to speak for the applicant, but or their agent, but I do believe they understand that that is a process in detail going forward.
Okay, and just my last question would be regarding site plan control, and is that something that we would be having on these properties, Planner?
Yes, and through you, Mr. Chair, that is exactly and precisely the components that will happen on this property. It will be a detailed site plan agreement registered on title. So those detailed components will come forward at a later date through council, not committee. They'll come through council, and that's where all of those, kind of, I don't want to say minute, but those significant details with respect to runoff and all of those kind of components will come before council, and that will be approved by bylaw.
Okay, thank you very much. I noticed that there's been a tremendous amount of work on this planning, as well as our own internal staff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Herger, and I take that we'll be circling back to you when we get to 6.5 for decision by the committee, because I feel that you wanted to put an amendment forward, so I will call on you for that at that time. We will go to Member Townsend, and then we'll wrap up with Member Robinson. I see her hands just popped up. So Member Townsend, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to go back to the water issue for a moment, or at least a topic. The county said that they were concerned about the state and quality of their infrastructure. Has that issue been resolved?
If I may, Mr. Chair. To specify exactly what that component is, we have been in consultation with the county, and part of the site plan approval process will define what that looks like. So that's something that is a requirement of consent. If they're unable to fulfill that requirement as part of site plan approval as a condition of consent, the application will lapse. So that is a obligatory component on the applicants for their specific definition. So has it been defined in entirety as of yet? No. But it will be before the actual legality of those lots being created will happen. I hope that answers your question. Please feel free to ask for a clarification.
Sure, I would like a clarification, because it was the county saying they were concerned about their own infrastructure rather than how the developer or the actual build would happen and connect. And so that's what kind of worried me. I didn't think you covered that point. If I missed that, please repeat if you don't mind.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I will clarify that that is a condition of site plan approval. So as provisional consent works, if they can't satisfy that condition through site plan control, then the consent will lapse. So there is a responsibility on the developer at this point in time and their agent to identify that there is capacity. It's not the municipality's responsibility to identify the quality of county infrastructure. So this will be on a conversation between the applicant, their agent, and their consultant with the County of Grey. But that is a condition that will be fulfilled. And if it isn't, then there is no consent.
Okay, I now understand how the responsibility comes forward. Thank you. The other thing that was in there was about a trail that they were concerned might have generate some noise. And the recommendation was to ensure that the purchasers of the property are aware of that. In past experience, I can tell you that that can be very significant to an owner to find these out after the fact. And it ends up on council's plate, not on the developers, because no offense to the developer, when they're done, they get to move on, which is what should happen. So no complaint or derogatory marker intended there. But it means the council therefore has to make sure that however that's registered or however that's communicated is satisfactory to the municipality. Do you have a concern or recommendation for that?
If I may, Mr. Chair, I absolutely, this is the tool of site plan control. So that would be registered on title. So that would be noticed when anyone goes to buy a property and there's something registered on title to the property, they would be absolutely informed of that component. So if there is a trail issue, as much as there could be an odor issue from an agricultural facility adjacent to it, I'm using that as a very broad spectrum component, that is registered on title. So the complaint process is very clear in the sense that once you're informed and you purchase the property with the information, that it is the way it is, and you can't back away from it. That's a legal document.
Thank you. I was hoping you would say that. That was all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Townsend. And Member Robinson, I apologize. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, I want to step back if we could, dealing with the age and quality of the county infrastructure. So I'm referencing page 82, paragraph 4, sentence 3, and I quote, "The county has expressed concern in the state of the existing infrastructure due to age and quality. However, at the time of writing this report, no confirmation from the county has been received related to the quality of the infrastructure. The issue can be addressed through a detailed design." So my question to Planner Spencer, with regard to the conditions that you're recommending in the report, does the concern with regard to the infrastructure, and that's just not relative to connection, but it's actually the quality and state of the existing infrastructure and how it will support this application. Under bullet, I guess it's bullet 5 and bullet 6, verification is confirmed by the applicant relative to the infrastructure requirements along Gray Road 9. Would you suggest that there needs to be something more descriptive that may address the importance of understanding the county's concern with regard, if they do have a concern with regard to the age and quality? And also, is there anything further at this stage within the responsibilities and the jurisdiction of Committee of Adjustment that we can identify through the last bullet for the applicants to obtain site plan approval? Looking forward to your comments and recommendation, Planner Spencer.
If I may, Mr. Chair, you're correct in the sense that site plan control is very detailed. And as I've stated previously, that's registered on title to the property, and that is subject to stay with the property regardless of the property owner. So these conditions of the infrastructure and the quality, that is the onus of the property owner at this point in time. You know, if it's the direction of committee to change that, site plan control and the verification from the county of sufficient infrastructure will suffice to deal with those two issues and have it registered on title. But just as a general rule, we wouldn't approve if the county has an issue with respect to the infrastructure. That's something that would fail this application in the provisional consent and going forward to fulfill those conditions within 12 months. The onus really is on the property owner at this point in time, and that's why that condition and both conditions are there. I hope that clarifies, but I'm happy to clarify further.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, members of the committee. Is there any follow-up, any other questions before we turn the application to the public? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move on to 6.4.2. Again, there's two parts to this portion of the public meeting. First one is to speak in favor of the application, and that'll be followed by anybody that would like to speak in opposition or against the application. I'm going to ask Legislative Coordinator Patterson to please provide the members of the public on how they can participate, and if you could just let us know if you have received any information or you have anybody that would like to speak in favor of it first.
Thank you. Through your chair, there is nobody here in the chat or waiting to speak.
Okay, thank you. And I do not see any chats or any hands raised on my screen as well. And now we will go to anybody that would like to speak in opposition of it. Again, we've given you the details on how you can participate. And I'll ask again, once again, Legislative Coordinator Patterson to see, just let us, well, to confirm for me that you have received nothing or you have anybody on standby.
That's correct, Chair Hutchinson. There's nobody in the chat or waiting on standby.
Okay, well, thank you very much. All right, so let's see here. That takes us to 6.5, and that's decision by the committee. And again, I will go to Member Herder because I believe that there was a suggestion or wanted to put an amendment on the recommendation. So we'll go to you for a mover, and then I'll be looking for a seconder. And before we do that, Member Hutchinson, did you have a question, or were you just looking to move it? Okay, go ahead, Member Herder.
Yes, so as part of the conditions, I would like that we request the developer to provide fiber optic internet. And that's the only amendment.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll be looking for a seconder. Member Hutchinson, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll second the motion, but I also want to clarify the amendment. Are we sure that there's fiber there? Like, I wouldn't want to make that a condition if there wasn't actually fiber available.
Sure, so there most certainly is internet in Neustadt, and it should be able to be brought for like just east and south. There's already, well, Gemini has in the ground fiber.
It is fiber.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as it's available, I guess that's the big thing. Yeah.
Like I said, I think it's just a matter of making the connection with the internet provider there to just coordinate it.
Okay, thank you. Actually, Planner Spencer, can you confirm if there is fiber over there? I believe I have the answer, but would you know that?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, there is fiber available. What that looks like in terms of cost for extension, I can't comment to that effect, but there is fiber available.
Thank you for the clarification. And does that answer your question, Member Hutchinson?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you. And
Okay, thank you. Okay, Clerk Sherbeck, could you read the recommendation with the amendment, please?
Sure, through you, Chair. Moved by Member Herger and seconded by Member Doug Hutchinson, that the Committee of Adjustment does hereby approve consent to sever applications number B15 2020, B16 2020, B17 2020, B18 2020, B19 2020, B20 2020, and B21 2020 wells for the reasons and subject to the conditions as set out in the planner's report, as well as with a further condition that the developer be requested to provide an extension of fiber optic internet for this development.
Thank you, Clerk Sherbeck. So we'll call the vote. All members, or actually, is there any comments or questions on the recommendation before us? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All members in favor, if you can signify by raising your hand, please. I see all 5 members are in favor, none opposed. This motion has carried. That'll take us to item 6.6. Clerk Sherbeck, please let us know what the next steps would be, please.
Through Chair, as set out in the planner's report, upon approval of these applications, the notice of decision will be sent out, and there is an appeal period. If no appeals are received, then planning staff will notify the applicant, and the applicant will have, from the date of decision, 12 months to complete all of the conditions set out in the decision sheet.
Thank you, Clerk Sherbeck. Okay, we're moving on to item number 7 on today's agenda, and that's the consent to sever number B16 2021 Joshua Davis and Shannon O'Connor at 800 Albert Street, Ayton, registered plan 153, parts 8-3-10, Township of Normanby. 7.1 application B16 2021 Joshua Davis and Shannon O'Connor. We'll move to plan number 7.2. This is Planner Spencer's report. Planner Spencer, if you could please read your recommendations and include in there the written comments received under 7.3.1, 7.3.2, 7.3.3, and as well as 7.3.4. Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. So this application is for consent. So recommendation is that the committee receives report B16 2021 Davis Joshua, and the recommendation that application B16 2021 be provisionally approved, subject to the following conditions: the payment of any outstanding municipal taxes, if applicable, the payment and receipt of an entrance permit for the severed parcel, file B16 2021, the provision of a certified well drilling report to the satisfaction of the municipality, the provision of a septic installer's report to the satisfaction of the municipality, and finally, payment of the $500 parkland dedication fee for the newly created parcel. The subject lands are municipally identified as 800 Albert Street and legally identified as 153, lots 8 to 10, Helena Street, within the geographic township of Normanby, within the secondary settlement area of Ayton in the municipality. The purpose is to sever one residential lot and retain one residential lot within the secondary settlement area. The effect of the applications will create a total of 2 lots, including the retained parcel. The proposed parcel will be used for residential purposes. Planning staff have received comments from the County of Grey and the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, which both recommend approval of the application as well. Planning staff are satisfied that there are no concerns with subject to the application. It meets the zoning bylaw amendment requirements with respect to frontage and area. However, there are some significant concerns going forward. There may be a requirement for additional consideration when someone else purchases the property. They may need a minor variance, and we're just recognizing that that is the consensus going forward, but that is not recommended to be a condition of consent at this point in time, as it's not the current landowner's responsibility to anticipate what the next property owner may have. I'm happy to clarify further as you wish. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. That will take us to 7.4 verbal comments. 7.4.1 is the committee members. Again, this is our opportunity to ask any comments or raise any concerns or questions you may have regarding the application. I do see Member Townsend's hand up, so go ahead, Member Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to the planner. There's two things that within the package we received, I think, that need to be addressed first, not the actual application. Your report in the paragraph for the executive summary refers to a primary settlement area. I believe that's secondary, just for clarification. But more importantly, page 126 of our package, which I think would be 121 of the report, actually, I think belongs to A21 2021, because it's got Evans as the name on it, as the map, rather than for this one. So I just thought I'd point that out. If you're putting that report away, you probably will find later there's that page there. Where I did have a concern, there's a lot to the north of the retained area, the severed area, and I didn't know whether the severance actually creates an impact negative to that lot, or whether that parcel of land could actually become a lot. I wonder if you could address that issue first, please.
Planner Spencer.
I appreciate the clarification through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councillor Townsend, for pointing out, yes, there is an error there. It is a secondary settlement area. So thank you for clarifying. To the second point, no additional lot is being created as a result of this lot creation. There was a contemplation by the landowners to create two lots instead of just one. They've chosen to postpone the actual severance of a second lot at this point in time, but this does not by virtue create them a second lot through this application. As long as that's answering your question, I'm happy to clarify further if you require.
No, that's fine. Thank you. That does answer my question. The next question has to do with services and the fact that they're actually on Helena Street, and therefore they will require to provide their own services, since it's not on a street, if you will. It's on a recessed access. Will that actually be in the form of a site control or another term that needs to be addressed, another condition, that needs to be addressed as part of the approval?
If I may, thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So that is a condition of provisional consent should committee choose to approve the application. So we will need to see evidence of sufficient records from a qualified well installer and a septic installer to ensure that the property can sufficiently provide private services to the property. And that is a condition of consent. Failing that, the application will become null and void.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I think I misled you to which topic it was. Services. I meant municipal services like snow removal and garbage removal.
So no, that is an open and maintained municipal road. Through you, Mr. Chair, my apologies. Through you, Mr. Chair, that is a requirement of the municipality to conduct those services because it is an open and maintained municipal road at this point.
Even though the access is through Helena Street?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. I didn't realize that. Thank you. They were all my questions.
Thank you, Member Townsend. Thank you, Planner Spencer, for your detailed response. Is there any further comments or questions from the committee members before we move on to the public? Okay. Seeing none, That'll move us on to 7.4.2, and this is the public portion. Again, not to be a broken record, but if anybody has joined us, there's two parts to the public portion of our meeting. First one is to speak in favor of the application, and that is followed by anybody that would like to speak opposed or is against the application. I'm going to ask Legislative Coordinator Patterson to explain to the public how they can participate, and at the same time you can let us know if anybody is on in the queue or you received any correspondence for anybody who'd like to speak both in favor, and we'll follow that up with opposed as well. We'll wrap all that up in one bundle. Legislative Coordinator Patterson, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Hutchinson, members of the public can raise their hand or send a chat message to myself, Tanya Patterson, and I will read their message. At this point, I don't see anyone in the chat or sending a message, sorry, and there's no one waiting to speak.
Okay, thank you. And just this is for both in favor and possibly anybody to be opposed, just so the members of the public know where we're at in that portion of the agenda. Okay, I do not see any hands, or I have seen nothing on chat. So with that, that will move us on to 7.5, and that's the decision part of the agenda here for this application. What direction would the committee like to take? I do see Member Robinson's hand up, and I see Member Townsend, but I will take Member Robinson first, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will move that the Committee of Adjustment does hereby provisionally approve consent to sever application number B16.2021, Davis and O'Connor, for the reasons and subject to the conditions as set out in the planner's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Robinson. Excuse me, Member Townsend, did you want to second that? I did see your hand up.
Mr. Chair, yes, I will second that motion, please.
Thank you very much. Clerk Sarbeck, could you please read the recommendation?
Through you, Chair Hutchinson, the recommendation moved by Member Robinson and seconded by Member Townsend is that Committee of Adjustment does hereby provisionally approve consent to sever application number B16/2021 Davis and O'Connor for the reasons and subject to the conditions as set out in the planner's report.
Thank you, Clerk Sarbeck. Comments or questions on the recommendation before us from the committee members? Seeing none, we'll call the motion. All members in favor, if you can just show your hand on the screen. I see 5 members of the committee are in favor. That is none opposed. Motion is carried. And Clerk Sarbeck, if you could just let us know the next steps under item 7.6, please.
You, Chair. The next steps, also as set out in the planner's report, is staff will provide notice that the appeal period will commence if the application is approved. And if no appeals are received, then the applicant is also notified that the appeal period is ended. The applicant has 12 months from the date of today's decision to complete all the conditions as set out in the decision sheet.
Thank you, Clerk Sarbeck. Okay, moving right along, we're on item number 8 on today's agenda, and that's the consent to sever number B22/2021, Dolores Ray and Rebecca Ray, 214461, excuse me, Baseline Road, Elmwood, Lot Half 25, Concession 3, WGR, Township of Bentic. 8.1, application number B22/2021, Dolores Ray and Rebecca Ray. Under 8.2 is Planner Spencer's report. Planner Spencer, if you could please read your report, the recommendation, and if you could include in that 8.3 written comments received, including 8.3.1, 8.3.2, 8.3.3, and 8.3.4. Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation is that committee receive my report and approve application B22/2021 REA, subject to the following conditions: the payment of any outstanding municipal taxes, payment of the zoning bylaw amendment application fee, approval of a zoning bylaw amendment, and finally, payment of the $500 parkland dedication fee for the newly created lot. The property is municipally identified as 21446661 Baseline Road and legally identified as the west part of Lot 25, Concession 3, west of the Garifraxa Road in the geographic township of Bentic. The purpose and effect of the application is to sever approximately 1 hectare, 2.5 acres, for a residential lot and retain the balance of the property as a rural parcel, the effect of which will create 2 parcels, including the retained. Planning staff have reviewed the application and provided documentation to all authorities having commenting agency proposals, none of which came back with significant concern. Planning staff are recommending approval of the application as a basis of this result and recommend and understand that there may be some significant portions of property that may need to be recognized as part of the zoning bylaw amendment for a building envelope. Otherwise, planning staff have no concerns and recommend approval of the application at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. That completes the item 8.3 and 8.3, again with the written comments. We're on 8.4. This will be 8.4.1, and this is committee members' comments. Committee members, is there any comments or questions on the recommendation before us? I see Member Robinson. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you for this application, which is for Dolores and Rebecca Ray. I'm just referencing on the correspondence from Grey County. It's on page 154 of our agenda. I'm going to reference this as the second paragraph, if you will. County staff recommended that MDS be applied to ensure that in any new residential development on the proposed severed lot can conform to minimum distancing criteria. I wonder, Planner Spencer, if you could just provide a little more information on that. Thank you very much.
Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Madam Mayor, MDS is calculated on any rural and agricultural severance, and that has been clarified and dealt with from a planning perspective, and there are no issues relative to that. So as a clarification component, that has been verified. Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Thank you, Member Robinson. Any further comments or questions from the committee members before we turn the meeting over to the public, or this portion of it anyway? Okay, seeing none, we were going to move on to 8.4.2. This is public comments. Again, there's 2 parts to this portion of the meeting. The first one would be to speak in favor of it, and then that would be followed by anybody who would like to speak opposed or is against the application. Again, Legislative Coordinator Patterson, I'm going to call on you to explain how the public can participate in the meeting, just in case any new members of the public have joined us. And if you could let us know if you've received any information or you have anybody in the queue that would like to speak both in favor or opposed at this time. Legislative Coordinator Patterson, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Hutchinson, members of the public can raise their hand in Zoom or send a chat message to myself, Tanya Patterson, and I will read their message. And I'm confirming right now that we haven't received any messages, and I don't see anyone waiting in the queue or any hands raised.
And I am doing the same. I do not see any hands raised or any chat notifications on my screen. So we will move on to 8.5, and that is a decision by the committee, and I will be looking for a committee member to bring a motion forward, please. And I see Member Townsend. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move that the Committee of Adjustment does hereby approve consent to sever application B22-2021 Ray for the reasons and subject to the conditions in the planner's report.
Thank you, Member Townsend, and I do see Member Herder's hand. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I will second that. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Herder. Clerk Sherbert, could you please read the recommendation for us?
Thank you, Chair Hutchinson, moved by Member Townsend and seconded by Member Hergert, that the Committee of Adjustment does hereby approve consent to sever application number B22-2021 Ray for reasons and subject to the conditions as set out in the planner's report.
Thank you, Clerk Sherbert. Comments or questions on the recommendation before us? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, if you could raise your hand, please. I see 5 members of the committee are in favor, none opposed. This motion is carried. That will take us to item 8.6. Clerk Sharbeck, what are the next steps, please?
Thank you through you, Chair. The next steps are set out in the planner's report, and they are again there will be an appeal period. Notice will be sent out to the applicant of the decision and of the end of the appeal period if no appeals have been received. The applicant has 12 months from the date of today's decision to complete all of the conditions that are set out on the decision sheet.
Thank you, Clerk Sharbeck. Okay, that moves us to item number 9 on our agenda today, and that is to consent to sever application number B23 2021, Bridget Noman and Dieter Noman, and 234128 concession 2 WGR Durham lot 36 part lot 37 and 38 concession 3 WGR Township of Bentic. And that'll take us to 9.1, and that's application number B23 2021 Bridget Noman and Dieter Noman. 9.2, that is Planner Spencer's report. Planner Spencer, please read your report, and if you could include 9.3 written comments received, including 9.3.1, 9.3.2, and 9.3.3. Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair. So the recommendation is that committee receive my report and approve application B23 2021 Nalman, subject to the following conditions: the payment of any outstanding municipal taxes if applicable, the payment of the zoning bylaw amendment fee, approval of a zoning bylaw amendment to implement a holding provision on the subject lands, and finally payment of a parkland dedication fee. I will note at this point in time, prior to the provision of this report, following that, there was some comments with respect from the county requesting that there was some entrance applications provided, which are actually on the decision sheet. They're concerned that they need to have entrance permits to access the rear part of the property in addition to the newly created parcel, which I'm in support of, but this report was provided in advance, but the decision sheet will reflect those components. The property is municipally identified as 234128 Concession 2 west of the Garifraxa Road, and legally identified as Lot 36, Part Lot 37 and 38, Concession 3, again, west of the Garifraxa Road, in the geographic township of Bentic. The purpose of this application is to sever a 100-acre parcel and retain a 144-acre parcel along the original Crown survey, the effects of which will create 2 agricultural parcels. Planning staff have received comments from the County of Grey, in addition to the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. And in light of those comments, the holding provision will address the comments that have been provided from the Conservation Authority. Planning staff have no further concerns and recommend approval of the application. Further clarification is welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. Take us to 9.4, verbal comments. 9.4.1. This is committee members' opportunity to speak out or ask any questions regarding this application before us. Committee members, comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move on to 9.4.2. This is the public portion. Again, I'm going to ask Legislative Coordinator Patterson to inform the public how they can participate in the meeting. And if you could let us know if you've received any correspondence or everybody in the queue would like to speak in both favor or opposed to this application. Again, Legislative Coordinator Patterson, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Hutchinson. Members of the public can raise their hand in Zoom or send a chat message to myself, Tanya Patterson, and I will read their message. And at this point, I'm not seeing any correspondence through the chat and no one waiting to come in to speak.
And I do not see any hands raised on my end. I do not see anyone signifying through chat as well. So that being said, we will move on to 9.5, and that's the decision by the committee. What direction would the committee like to take with this application? And I do see Member Hutchinson's hand up, followed by Member Robinson. Member Hutchinson.
Yeah, I'd like to move that the Committee of Adjustment does hereby approve consent to sever application number B23-2021 Nauman for the following reasons and subject to the following conditions as outlined in the planner's report.
Thank you, Member Hutchinson. And Member Robinson, I did see your hand up second. Would you like to second that motion?
Yes, I will second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Clerk Sarbeck, could you please read the recommendation before us?
Thank you. Through you, Chair, the recommendation moved by Member Doug Hutchinson and seconded by Member Robinson is that the Committee of Adjustment does hereby approve consent to sever application B23-2021 Nauman for the reasons and subject to the conditions as set out in the planner's report. And I'm just wondering if you would like to add also with the further condition that the applicant obtain entrance permits for the rear of the property. Is that necessary to add that, Planner Spencer?
Planner Spencer.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, that is actually on the conditions sheet that will be signed, and that is a request of the county. So that is a condition that will be acknowledged as part of signing the condition sheet.
Included then.
That's right. It was just a time delay of the comments being received and the agenda being issued. No fault of anyone, but just coincidence.
Thanks. So through you, Chair, that condition is already included in the conditions set out by the planner. So it's not necessary to add it. Sorry for that. Just wanted to be clear.
That's okay. And no, I appreciate you bringing that forward. I'm sure the whole committee does. Okay, so comments or questions on the recommendation before us? Is everybody clear on that? From the committee, obviously. Okay. I see no comments or questions. Call to vote. All members in favor, if you could just raise your hand, please, on the screen. I see 5 members are in favor, none opposed. That motion will be carried. And Clerk Sarbeck, if you could please read the next steps under 9.6. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. The next steps following approval today, provisional approval today by the committee, is the commencement of the appeal period. If no appeals are received, notice of that will be sent out to the applicant. The applicant has 12 months from the notice of today's decision to complete all of the conditions set out on the decision sheet.
Thank you, Clerk Sarbeck. All right, item number 10 on our agenda. This is consent to sever application number B24-2021 Joseph Allen, 174283 Mulock Road, Part Lot 26, Concession 9, RP 16R7318, Part 1, Municipality of West Grey. Item 10.1, application number B24-2021 Joseph Allen. Take us to 10.2, and this is Planner Spencer's report. If you could please read your recommendation, and if you could include the written comments received, including 10.3.1 and 10.3.2. Planner Spencer, please.
My apologies for the delay, sir. So the purpose of the application with discussion in this particular circumstance is the recommendation that the committee receive my report and approve application B24-2021 Allen, subject to the following conditions. That would be the payment of any outstanding municipal taxes, payment of the zoning bylaw amendment application fee, approval of a zoning bylaw amendment application, and finally the payment of the parkland dedication fee for the newly created lot. The property is municipally identified as 174283 Mulock Road, and legally identified as Part Lot 26, Concession 9, Register Plan 16R 7318, Part 1, in the geographic township of Bentig. The purpose of the application is to sever a 1.05 hectare, 2.6 acre parcel, residential purposes, and retain 19 hectares, 46.95 acres as a parcel, the effect of which will create one residential parcel and retain one rural parcel. In general, the comments with respect from the county and the Saugeen Valley Conservation are supportive of the application. There is a caveat to the county comments with respect to this application in that one of the portion, a minor portion of the property is identified as is identified as a prime agricultural area. However, the county is willing to consider moving this property over further to the east to accommodate a more symmetric situation, or leaving it as it's been applied. Staff have no concerns with either declaration by the county and quite feel that the application as put before us is sufficient and should suffice. And there is no concerns that have been relayed from a planning perspective with respect to those designations on the property. But I'm happy to answer and clarify further as committee wishes. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. And we'll see if anybody has any comments or questions under 10.4, which is the verbal comments section. And the first one is 10.4.1, and this is the committee members' comments. Is there any comments or questions from the committee members? And I do see Member Townsend. Go ahead, please.
Mr. Chair, to the planner, is there a requirement for an entrance permit? I did not see that anywhere in the document, unless I missed it.
If I may, Mr. Chair. For clarification purposes, that is correct. It is on the decision sheet, but it was not part of the initial planning report, and that is a fault on my behalf. I'm sorry about that.
Okay. Thank you. That was my only question.
Thank you, Member Townsend. Any other comments or questions from the committee members? I do see Member Hutchison's hand up. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Member Hutchison, just a question to our planner, maybe just a general knowledge. So my understanding is that now in the official plan, I believe it's the county official plan, 100-acre parcel can be severed into 4 lots, depending on the use of that property. I guess if it's agriculture or whatever. Is that correct, or how does that happen?
Planner Spencer.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. No, that's not correct. If you're identified as prime agricultural land, the minimum lot severance would be 100 acres. So I guess the clarification would be that if you are in a rural designation, that's very different. So prime agricultural land is class 1, 2, 3. Rural lands are class 4, 5, 6, 7. If you're in 4, 5, 6, 7, yes, you can obtain up to 3 lots plus the retained, so you would have 4. But if you're prime agricultural land, you can't get anything less than 100 acres.
No, but yeah, so yeah, that was sort of my thought. I understand with prime agricultural, but with the rural, potentially there could be 4 lots within each 100-acre parcel. And again, that would depend on what hazard lands and how that gets split up, right? But there is potential for that.
If I may, Mr. Chair. So the only caveat to that is that yes, the broad policy will speak to the fact that you can have as many as 3 lots off of the 100-acre Crown survey. However, it also is based on minimum distance separation. It's based on any potential for hazard lands. There's a lot of, it's not a clean cut answer. So no. Yes, in theory, yes, that's correct, but it doesn't make it a yes or no.
No, yeah, based on restrictions. I understand that. That's for sure. Okay, thank you.
Any comments or questions from committee members? And Member Hudson, your hand's still up, so if you'd like to have another question, I'll certainly take it. Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, seeing no other comments or questions under 10.4.1, which is the committee members, we're we're going to take this next part of the meeting, 10.4.2. We'll turn it over to the public. Again, I'm going to rely on Legislative Coordinator Patterson. You could let us know how the public can participate in this, and at the same time, after you've explained that, if you could let us know if you have anybody who would like to speak in favor or in opposition of the application. Legislative Coordinator Patterson, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Hutchinson, members of the public can raise their hand in Zoom or send a chat to myself, Tanya Patterson, and I will read their message. At this point, I'm not seeing any chat messages and no one wanting to get into the meeting to speak. Sorry, I just do see a chat message here. Would you like me to go ahead and read it?
Yes, please. Go ahead there. I just seen it pop up here as well, so I'm sorry for the delay. Go ahead.
From Genevieve Scott, she would like to comment.
Okay.
She doesn't have an option to raise her hand.
Okay, that's fine. So we can unmute Ms. Scott, and Ms. Scott, if you could just announce your name when you go to speak for the record, and then you can have the floor. Go ahead, please.
Certainly, thank you very much. Genevieve Scott from Questa Planning Consultants. We helped Mr. Allen through processing this application. And I don't really have any comments. Thank you very much, Ms. Spencer, for the report. I guess I just wanted to, I only had an opportunity to take a look at the staff report. I had no concerns related to the required conditions. I just wanted to confirm that the only additional condition on the decisions sheet related to the entrance permit.
Planner Spencer.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, you are correct, Genevieve. That is the only additional condition that was not as part of the recommendations of my report. So I apologize for that confusion, but that is correct.
Thanks very much. That's all I have to say, and we certainly respectfully request approval of the application. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for joining us this afternoon, Ms. Scott, and you have no other further questions. Then we will move on to 10.5, and that's the decision. And what decision or what direction, I apologize, would the committee like to take with this application? And I do see Member Herger's hand. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I would like to move that the Committee of Adjustment hereby approve consent to sever application B24-2021 Allen for the reasons set out in the planner's report, as well as the addition of the entrance permit required.
Thank you. Would there be a seconder for this? I see Member Townsend's hand. Go ahead, Member Townsend.
It's Member Townsend, and I second that recommendation.
Thank you. Clerk Sarback, could you read the recommendation before us, please?
Through you, Chair Hutchinson, moved by Member Herger and seconded by Member Townsend, that the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves consent to sever application number B24-2021 Allen for the reasons and subject to the conditions as set out in the planner's report, including the condition to require an entrance permit.
Comments or questions from the committee on the motion before us? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, if you could raise your hand, please. I see 5 members in favor, none opposed. This motion is carried. That takes us to item 10.6 and next steps. Clerk Sarback, if you could provide your comments, please.
Through you, Chair, there will be an appeal period. Notice of today's decision will be sent out to the applicant, as well as notice of no appeals. When we get through that appeal period, of course, if no appeals have been received, and the applicant has 12 months from the date of today's decision to complete all of the conditions set out on the decision sheet.
Thank you, Clerk Sarback. All right, that moves us to item number 11, next meeting. And Clerk Sarback, if you could confirm this, I did see on our website it's October 4th at 1 p.m. I know in the notes here it said to be determined, but could you confirm that date, please?
Through you, Chair, yes, that's the next date I have is October 4th, and it will be a 1 p.m. Committee of Adjustment meeting.
Thank you. Member Hutchinson, you have your hand up. You have a question?
No, I'd just like to make a comment before we go to adjournment. I'd just like to thank our planner Spencer and our clerk Genevieve for all their work on this, these applicants, and also all the other ones that have come forward. I was a little worried today about the length of it, and I see Mr. Hutchison, our chair, he zoomed us right through here, so that was good. But I think you know, lots of things are happening, and I know it's a lot of work on their end of it, and I'm pleased to see that we're moving forward. Lots of things happening, and that's great for West Grey. So congratulations.
Well, thank you for your comments, and I will add, we've said this before, and I think it's a lot of it's on the preparation of these applications coming. They're very detailed, and kudos to the committee for, you know, reading them in detail and getting the questions prepared. So we are getting things done. So we're all working together, and we're the success stories on the table with that. Anybody have any other comments or questions now that we're all patting each other on the back here?
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely, Planner Spencer. I was hoping you'd
I
chime in.
appreciate all of you for reading the reports and understanding in advance. It's much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. It's actually entertaining reading sometimes. So, anyways, that takes us to item number 12, and that's the adjournment. Member well, I look at the hands come up now. I will take Member Robinson, followed by Member Herkert. Member Robinson, are you moving that motion?
Yes, thank you.
Member Herkert?
Member Herger, second.
Thank you. Clerk Scharbeck, could you please read the recommendation before us, please?
Sure, through you, Chair Hutchinson, that Committee of Adjustment hereby adjourns this meeting at 2:18 p.m.
I'd like to call the motion. All those in favor, if you could just raise your hand, please. I do see, well, all members in favor of that motion. None opposed. This motion is carried. Thank you very much, and everyone have a wonderful afternoon. Take care.